Ryan and I will randomly get on a phone call, and it's usually like, yo, what's up? What's up? What's up?
It's like 6:30 in the morning usually too, because you forget the time zone difference, and you're just like, "What are you doing?"
What's up?
Yeah, what's up? You definitely have to be over like 30 to know that reference. By the way,
it's behavior, bitches.
Hey guys, it's Liat. Welcome to today's episode of Behavior Bitches podcast. Today, we have a special guest, but before I get into our guest, obviously, I have to reinforce myself, or my behavior, shall I say, of doing this podcast, because it takes a lot of work to get on here and put these out. So, here we go. This next is from Aaron Barg, and this is coming in after the Parisa podcast on Spotify. You could leave reviews on Spotify now, too, just saying, in case you're not an Apple user. It is. I really appreciate how this podcast incorporates relatable scenarios while seamlessly integrating APBA terminology. I also loved all the behind-the-scenes details about The Bachelor. I've always wondered about those. Me too, and she couldn't even answer the juiciest ones because her producers were on the call. That was kind of lame. However, thank you for leaving the review. I have a lot more questions there. Thanks, Aaron. Now, getting into today's guest, this guest is very special to me because I think, and I don't know if you know this, guest, I've noticed in our field of APBA have like a lot of, they'll be like, oh my God, I'm such a fangirl of this. And they'll drop names like, well, I don't want to put names because then they're going to think I'm being rude, these people. But whatever it is. And like, I don't really have anyone that I like specifically like fan over. And if I were going to look at like my one person in the field, I'd say it's you.
oh, that's too kind.
I know, I'm not
But
that
also,
kind
I don't
usually.
know if I should be that high up on the list. I can give you like 12 others to put up higher.
I know, but that's probably just like me not being educated that I chose you. I'm just kidding.
It just means that my social media marketing strategy early days really worked well.
Like, I mean, there's people doing cool things, but like the way you explain things, I just think you're like the brightest person. Like you're my like, okay, this doesn't make sense. Let me bring it to him, see if this is right or not. So that's you.
Thank you.
And if anyone's wondering, if you're not watching this on YouTube, and if you're not watching this on YouTube, go subscribe on YouTube because we're making these on video now, which is a lot more work. I'm sitting here with Ryan O'Donnell. You guys may know him as the Daily BA on social media. I'd say you were probably the first, or if not one of the first social media BCBAs.
Yeah. So, yeah, I got in the field and
When did you become BCBA?
slowly stumbled into like media as a secondary thing. There was actually a first wave of behavior analysts that were on there that nobody really knows about.
On social?
Yeah, the two primary ones though that are still like active was behavior guy. This is not behavior man. This is behavior guy. And then
Is he there still?
He is, but he was much. His name's Corey Robertson, and he was much larger on Twitter, I think.
Is he
at
FIT?
the time? Yeah.
He was my teacher, I think.
And then Behavior Babe, Amanda Kelly, as well, which she still is like very active on her page and whatnot. So those are the OGs in my book. Although when I jumped on and uploaded a bunch, I think out of the sheer volume that I uploaded, it helped people think that I was like first when I really wasn't first. So I always got to give a shout out to those two people.
I don't remember Behavior Guy. Definitely Behavior Babe.
Mm-hmm.
I remember people be like, get confused with like Behavior Bitches and Behavior Babe. And I was like, no, we're bitches.
I feel like who's first kind of like helps. It helps you fit in. You can see when people came into the field based on like who they were paying attention to, because it was like whoever was loudest at the time then.
What year did you become a BCBA?
2013. So I stumbled into the field in like 2009 accidentally, and just looking for some interesting psychology stuff after Psych 101, and I just happened to take a Principles of Behavior class. And I was like, this stuff's cool. It was like the first time I was doing well in something and enjoying it, whereas usually like one or the other. You know, you're like, man,
You didn't do well you for sure did well in classes.
Yeah, like what I was saying is like I've always been good with numbers, and people are like, you should be an accountant. I was like, that sounds horrible.
Horrible.
And then there would be things where it's like, hey, I'm interested in, I don't know, like biology, but like I was horrible at like different aspects that you had to be good at if you wanted to like go into a pre-med route. So I was like, well, that ain't going to be worthwhile, I don't think. Where behavior analysis, it was like interested in it, and I was doing well in class. So I was like, I should probably chase this.
So you're my age, weren't we? You're 90s?
89?
89.
Yeah.
So you were like the older kid in my grade. They were like the cool ones who drove first, and you like get them to drive you.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wait, did you graduate high school in 08?
2007.
Oh, so you literally were a year older than me.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. How did you become a BCBA so early? Like, I don't think I was that behind in life. Like, did you skip 3 grades?
No, so just like out of happenstance, where I went to undergraduate school, which was at the University of Nevada, Reno, they had it set up to where you could almost get all the classes you needed for your BCABA while you're in undergrad.
Okay.
Which was like not a popular thing at the time. It's becoming more and more over the last few years. Like programs are setting up for that a little bit more. But I was able to knock out whatever it was, like 15 of the 18 credits that you needed in undergrad. And then I just took like an accelerated ethics class in the summer to be able to like finish with it. So I actually had my BCABA first.
Oh, you took the test to be a BCABA?
Yeah, out of undergraduate, just so that I could like have that experience of like taking the test, and like you also got that pay raise, which everybody was like.
Did you start off working in a clinic?
Yeah, so I worked in a few different settings. I actually started with adults with intellectual disabilities. So going back to that class, I took that class that I enjoyed, bugged my professor and said, what are some opportunities that I can use to apply this sort of stuff? And they're like, well, there's various different centers, in-home sort of options as well. And I bugged him for an entire semester before he finally connected me with an adult intellectual disability provider that was working in a day habilitation center. So clients would come in 9 o'clock in the morning. We'd work with them from 9 to 3. Every hour or 2 hours, you kind of switch to a different client based on like what the needs were of that client, who you're working with, and things like that. And that's where I learned how to like actually use reinforcement procedures and like learned about this entire space of disabilities. Like I was aware of it loosely, but like being young and dumb, didn't really realize like just how vast the need was and how many people in society could have various different disabilities and like be looking for some sort of services. So that's a really like where my eyes
I
opened
still
up.
think like, I don't even know if like the majority of people in general now, even with all the awareness, realize how much need there is.
No. For like a current topic and event, there was a lot of talk going on with RFK and autism and his talk about how he was presenting autism data and like how he was talking about it. And just in that, I found
Dude, he, like, the way he said they can't pay taxes as the first thing, that was like just like a bad line. Like, come on.
But the discussion that happened just naturally, like in my friend and social group, like family group, was the people that don't realize all the intricacies and nuances of like how many people need help and the variety of different types of help that they need. So like when I was working with adults with intellectual disabilities, the first person I was working with was a guy that was 38 years old. Basically, I mean, I'm 36 now. And at 38 years old, no one had yet taught that guy how to wipe his own ass at 38 years old. You imagine walking around for 38 years, more or less, of like not being clean when you go to the bathroom, like,
With like,
and relying on a
itchy,
third
burning ass.
Yeah, and like relying on somebody else to do it for you if you want to avoid that. So that was like one of the first things that when I was on the case, like I learned about, and we worked on this person, teaching this person.
Like no one had even tried?
People had tried, but they were also like trying all these weird adaptive things that they didn't need to try. So they were trying to use like this giant, like, it was almost like a giant, it wasn't like a wooden spoon, but it was like this long, long thing that was like meant for him to be able to like not have to reach back there, but also you could like guide. And I think it was totally selected because people just didn't want to like put on gloves and get their hands dirty potentially of like
Is this
helping
reminding
teach
me
this
of like
guy.
those things that you like use to throw a dog ball? That's like
Yeah, that's
it's like
it's a perfect example. It's a perfect example. Imagine that, but like someone has to put toilet paper on it and then find where to wipe. Like it was wild. And yeah, at the time I was just like, I wanted to figure out how to use like the reinforcement strategies to make people's lives better, and then
Like,
found
that's not
myself in that
pragmatic.
sort of situation. Yeah. So I also, at the time of like getting in and learning how to use the science, I also learned pretty quickly of like, I feel like there's like these ABA street smarts of like you experience like the weird shit that goes on as well. Like somebody trying to program that as opposed to like, let's just teach the guy how to like pull some toilet paper, fold it, and wipe his ass, you know?
By the
Like-
way,
like
anyone
all of us
studying
do.
that's taking a pragmatic approach. And we use the word pragmatism. It's like, what's the most practical here? Like, is it practical that he's going to have this dog ball launcher to wipe his ass everywhere?
You imagine carrying that? And like the perspective, like no one,
And it's like covered in poo. I'm like,
and like taking the perspective of like how undignifying is that
you
to do those
absolutely.
sort of things,
I like
right?
actually feel bad that I'm laughing because like
Because
it's
that
like
somebody
so ridiculous.
that
It's so
somebody would think
ridiculous.
about that as the best option is what we're laughing at.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm laughing at. Not any. I want to make that clear. Yeah.
Like it's pretty wild. Just shows you. Hopefully,
No, I
people
mean,
aren't
I get
running
it. Trust me, I'm not laughing. I've also been through a stage and my hands are falling off, and I had people wiping my ass for me, and it's like something about it just like doesn't hit right.
that. Yeah, like, I've not been there myself, but we
It's
can do a
not,
follow-up podcast when I'm older.
Yeah. Anyways, so okay, what are you up to these days?
These days, really trying to figure out how do we distill the science down in a way to where other people want to listen to it and use it, but also like not distill it to the point where like scientists are unhappy. So I think that comes down to like using storytelling to like package the science up. And that's where I've been ever since I started the social media side of things, was just trying to figure out like through uploading video content primarily or written content, just like what works in getting people to adopt our science and be excited to.
So when we met, actually, Ryan is in town in Dallas right now because it's Tech Saba this weekend. This is actually our anniversary. We met at Tech Saba.
It is.
Do you think it was probably the same time of year, I'm assuming?
Roughly was. It was April or something like that, yeah.
So it was the first time. That was maybe in 2019 or something?
Yeah, they're doing a boot camp for like a
Behavior business boot camp.
Yeah, business boot camp of like helping people figure out the business side of ABA.
And
Yeah, that's
Ryan, like, I like didn't really have much then. Like I was like on Instagram, but like not really. I mean,
You didn't have your HQ.
I didn't have my HQ. I was still teaching on a whiteboard, not an iPad. I didn't have this much color behind me, all this stuff. But Ryan gave me a chance to sit and talk at the conference. And that's when I explained extinction and a breakup.
Yes, that video is still on YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's our anniversary. We need to go to dinner tonight, apparently.
After the collective.
Yeah.
Kind of late dinner. But I guess it's on your time zone. It'll be perfect time for you.
Yeah, we good to go.
All right, so we'll do that. What are you doing different than what you were doing then? So I know you've done a lot of cool projects. Why don't you update people like with sports and this and that?
Yeah.
Like you're not working a clinic.
No,
you
so
haven't been.
Yeah, I slid out of the clinic work. Basically, so found the field early, jumped in, got my master's degree, knocked that out. Was kind of jumping purposely through different roles. So I was like trying out like a case manager role, like in a clinic, or doing some consultation in a school, or working on some in-home sort of things. And I bounced around to a bunch of those. Found through like, it was like I'm summarizing like 5 or 6 years. I found that after a year and a half of any of those roles, that I just wasn't like waking up 100% stoked to like go do that job every day, which after running into a bunch of times, I was like, okay, these clients deserve somebody that's like bringing that passion every single possible minute. Not that you can potentially be at 100% every day, but like the point is like if I find myself waning on my interests, then that's not the best spot for me, but it's also definitely not the most helpful for them. And so what I realized in that after a lot of that was kind of like reflecting on it all is like building business, building new services, like the creative problem solving was the part that I really enjoyed. So I was used to going into a place that needed a lot of help on like designing like safety systems or like using evidence-based practice or like training staff. And I really enjoyed the chaotic nature of like trying to figure out, okay, how do we build that and correct that and like get them on a better path? And so adjacent to that, I was watching a bunch of YouTube content. And there was a bunch of YouTube creators at the time. One of the one that was like most famous and still is for like OG YouTube is this guy named Casey Neistat. And he could make the most annoying, or not annoying, the most mundane topic be like super interesting. And so
Behavior stuff?
No, nothing behavior whatsoever. This was just like daily vlog content.
Okay.
And so what I
You
realized,
consume a lot of content.
yes, what I realized was that there was kind of like these two worlds, which is like I wasn't loving my job, but also I was like really loving like how people could take really weird things and make them interesting. And eventually that turned into me being like, could we take this behavior analysis that I love and like make that interesting to other people? And so that's when I picked up a camera, I started trying to shoot, film, edit, and figure out what to do on that front. Turns out that was like the technical side of it and learning how to do it. It was like really difficult. And like, how do you make an image look good? How do you record good audio quality and stuff like that. But also another part that was super hard was the storytelling aspect, which is like, how do you piece things together? So
That's like a whole art in itself.
yeah. So that's a journey that I've been on for, I really want to say like I feel like I got most of the technical stuff down, or I know how to like hire and bring somebody in that can handle the technical stuff really well. It's the storytelling part that's really difficult. And so that's what I've been trying to really focus on.
I mean, when I look at the projects, by the way, Ryan is the person who, when we decided to take our collectives to the next level, recorded all, how many hours?
40, 60?
No, that was the final product, was like 60 hours.
Yeah, I don't know. Was it
like 60 hours of like finalized content.
Yeah, yeah.
But
we shot straight for 2 weeks. Like in this
like 8-hour
same
days.
spot. Yeah.
It was brutal, and there was like I literally think 5 cameras going at a time. One one was like the iPad screen, one was above my hands, one was on me, one was on Casey, one was on collectively, all of, like, I can't imagine how much time and editing that takes, because I'll tell you, since we have set up this like just podcast over here, the amount of effort that goes into picking a reel
Yeah.
from like a 1-hour podcast,
Yeah.
like that was, I don't even know how you did that. That sounds horrible.
That's basically the type of things that I started running into, is like, there's all these technical sides of things that you have to like figure out process wise, or you have to like hire and have somebody that's really good at it that you don't even realize are going behind the scenes. Like when I was watching those YouTubers, I was like, man, these guys are just like uploading videos and people are loving what they're doing. And then after 5 years of messing around in the space, I was like, oh, the reason that guy was good, like if I went back to that Casey Neistat, he actually was telling stories before YouTube and on YouTube in various different capacities for 20 years prior. He had an HBO like documentary series that was picked up because of his storytelling capabilities. And he had like a really clear formula for him that worked really well, that he could figure out how to package things into that people would watch and pay attention to. But it took me years to kind of stumble onto that and talking to other people to kind of find that storytelling formula. So there's like this technical side.
You're like the kind of person who becomes like obsessed with something and you're like, I'm going to perfect this. Or like reinforcement and punishment.
Yeah.
Like this
100%.
work.
Yeah. And so like that, I think that's one of the reasons why we don't have a ton of behavior analytics stuff that's out there. Like there's more and more happening all the time because people are starting to dabble with this and learn about this more. But like a podcast studio for APA, that's dope. Like we just don't, like, how many of these are there? Like 3, 1?
Well,
you know, like
I
we
think
need more of them. And like, it's because the technical stuff is so difficult. And that's usually a barrier for people. Once you start tackling that, then you also start tackling the storytelling side of it. And it just takes a long time to kind of get those chops.
You know, it's interesting when you say that, because like I always say, like, people are like, well, you started your business, this and that. And I'm like, honestly, what made the business successful is that I didn't fit into the BCBA box of like being like a type A, organized. Like I'm the most like ADHD off the wall. Like I'm looking for other people to control any area of my life. It was like, oh, like we could use this. It's different.
Mm-hmm.
But you are the most not ADHD person I've ever met in my entire life.
Yeah.
So
I'm
like
very
you still found the
structured,
skill. Like
yeah.
I'm saying that you still are doing something that other people weren't doing. Like I guess, I don't know if it's because there's like a prototype or like a stereotypical personality type that fits in the ABA field. Like you want to control things.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes there might be trauma attached. Sometimes there might not be, because like you didn't have trauma some area in your life. I just like I've seen these consistent patterns doing so many interviews on the show, right? And it's just interesting because you don't fit into that either, but you're also so different than me.
Yeah, I think the thing for me was like, I think it just maybe this is me fitting the like memories into a story now, and it wasn't that at the time. But it seems like for me in undergraduate school or school, I was just trying to figure out like how the hell does the world work. And for me, when I found this stuff, I was just like, if I can figure out how the world works, like behavior wise, I thought that and business were kind of the 2 safest bets. Where like, no matter what I was doing, even if so when I was young, I used to, in the summers, work construction jobs and like go make money doing that. I was like, even if I like find myself going back into construction, I can still use the business knowledge and the psychology knowledge, because I'm going to always find like those were 2 fields that connected everywhere in ways that I could like use tangibly. So
And behavior does that in a massive way.
Yeah. So that was just, I guess that's what attracted me to it. I still think that's like the biggest most valuable part is like it's selfishly we can like look at our own behavior and design systems and tweak our environment to get what we want out of life too.
I know. And sometimes I forget that like not everyone thinks of things this way. Like actually that brings us to our topic today that we were talking about. Ryan and I will randomly get on a phone call and it's usually like, yo, what's up? What's up? What's up?
It's like 6:30 in the morning usually too, because you forget the time zone difference and you're just like, what are you doing?
What's up?
Yeah, what's up? You definitely have to be over like 30 to know that reference, by the way.
That was like a Budweiser commercial.
Yes,
Right?
yes. From like the early 2000s?
Yeah.
Late
something.
90s probably?
It was very Snap-on brand 90s-esque, like 2000s.
Yeah.
So we get on the phone and then I'll usually ask him something about like, hey, how does a conference work? How does this? Like just like basic shit probably most BCBAs know that I don't. And then I'll ask about something random or I'll tell him something I read or like I'll try like name drop something that I read because like he's usually like read everything or knows anything that's going on. I feel like in the Reddit world and the TikTok world and
I
like
spent
just,
a lot of time on the internet.
yeah, you like it's just like, and I like to go to you for the TLDRs of anything. Like you've already looked it up, you know about it. Why would I waste my time? I mean, you were kind of ChatGPT before there was ChatGPT, so I've started calling less.
I appreciate that. But also in like certain areas, like some of the like behavior world has always been the area where just like, I feel like I have this constant fear of missing out of like knowledge. So it's
you?
like if someone's talking about something in like a media article, like just a random article that's like on a news website, I'm like, how the hell does that work? And like, I just like, whatever it is, now it's ChatGPT, but it was like Wikipedia or whatever Google searches, just be like, do a 5-minute understanding. Just be like, oh, this is what they're talking about. So,
Do you feel this? I just need to ask you, since ChatGPT is around,
mhm.
do you feel this like, so I don't feel anxiety of like, am I missing out on the latest research in the field? Like that, I don't get that at all. But with ChatGPT, I'm like, my entire algorithm on Instagram now is like different prompts and different things to use for different things. And now I'm like overwhelmed, like I should be doing more. I could be doing this. I could be doing this, blah, blah, blah. Like, so it's like in some ways it makes like certain tasks easier, but it's also like I should be doing more. Do you feel this stress at all? And is your
Yeah,
algorithm ChatGPT too?
yeah, but I also try to keep it off of that because, yeah, I guess like I create these boundaries when I'm like, oh, I don't want that. Usually I don't want my algorithms these days to be like work focused, if that makes sense. It's like
So what's in your
entertainment, kind of
algo?
escape sort of stuff. A lot of comedy, sort of things, a lot of skits. It's a lot of like that's like escapism sort of stuff, you know, where it's just like I've been busy working professionally all day. Like I just want something funny and things that are going to kind of get me to disconnect a little bit.
My
Some
current
news related stuff, but like even that, like if it's too much news stuff, like I'll start actively being like, don't show this because.
Oh, you tell it don't show this?
Yeah.
You punish it?
Yeah. Punish it or like provide it corrective feedback. I don't know. How you
On
wanna talk about
Instagram?
it. No, TikTok is probably where it is. I don't spend a lot of time on Instagram.
You're on TikTok?
Yeah, but I don't like post there. I just like consume. That's my guilty pleasure every night.
Actually, why aren't you doing more TikTok? You're a video guy.
It's exhausting to like do everything. I've been working on really big projects. So you're saying like can't remember what you exactly said, but it was something effective like doing sports media stuff and other things in the past. I've been on this journey of trying to figure out like how do I perfect storytelling, and for me that's been the long form stories I look at as like the most difficult to put together. So I've been working on this film around education practices that are using behavior analysis from this school called the Morningside Model.
Is that,
Morningside
are you talking
Academy.
like the educational methodologies, like
Yeah.
DTT versus what are the other ones?
This
Precision
this one's really
or
using precision.
PSI.
This one's really using precision teaching and like this personalized system instruction.
Also, they got rid of that on the
together.
test content outline.
Did they? This one's using those, but like not in the same way that you need to know for the test. Like basically, this place is talking about place is using that technology, but just like making it work for teachers to where teachers can deploy it really effectively. But the reason I brought that up was there's like I've been working on this project now for like 2 years, a little over 2 years, where I'm trying to create like one film that's 2 hours that is like as good of a story as I possibly can. So every day I'm waking up trying to figure out how to make that better. And if I spend time, like there's just not enough hours in the day. So if I spend time putting content up on TikTok or something like that, like it's just going to take away from me working on the other stuff. So like if there's more
You
hours
have
in a
like
day,
self-management skills.
Yeah.
Like you're aware of that.
Yeah. 100%. That I told you that's like that was the part I enjoyed the most out of our field, is like how I could use it to like manage my own behavior. So right now, like this
and like
phase,
you utilize it, which is really cool.
yeah, this phase is like, well, I could be getting a lot more helping people or like getting traction on TikTok or like helping companies on TikTok. And I've done that in the past. Like I'm just trying to figure out how to get a 2-hour film about behavior analysis that people are interested in. And like, that's my only goalpost right now.
We are
for the most part.
So different.
Yes.
Like we are so different from our tables at APBA.
Yes.
The decor.
Yeah.
To like being like, I'm only working on this one thing to get a 2-hour film. Like I can't imagine being that focused.
The APBA, so the Association for Professional Behavior Analysts conference, like a month ago, you had every possible thing you could imagine at your booth completely set up. Swag, prizes, giveaways, merch
like
people
the 90s
could buy.
threw up.
Yes, you were bleeding into other people's space, and
like
they were
we were
just
eating
like
under everyone else's table.
yeah. Whereas I had an iPad, a computer, showing my 2 films with a tablecloth and a few like business cards that I was handing out. Just like, check out my film. Yeah, like that's my focus right now. Is I'm just trying to figure out the storytelling side, because it's like figured out. More or less like behavior analysis and kind of like the cool parts of that and how to use that. Figured out the media side more of like the technical side of it, of like how do you make that stuff work. And then now it's like the storytelling. And then I don't know if there's something next, but like for me, it was like behavior analysis has all these great, cool stories and applications. We need to figure out how to tell them more. And that naturally led me to like, I got to figure out how to use cameras and the internet and social media. And then, oh wait, the story matters, and like how you package it matters and all that too. So I think after this film, I can kind of go back and reassess and be like, okay, now how do I put this together and like be more active again on social media and stuff like that. But
social media takes time.
There's just not enough hours in the day. Yeah.
So telling stories, this brings me to the book that I have to say, I have not read the entire book. I just had read the first 2 chapters that were free on iBook on my phone of Dan Ariely's new book titled What Makes Rational People Believe Irrational Things. Anyways, I was telling him that I read the first 2 chapters that were available for free on iBook on my iPhone, and now I've since ordered it from Amazon, so it probably is at my house now. The book titled What Makes Rational People Believe Irrational Things by Dan Ariely. And you're talking about storytelling, and assuming you're telling stories that hopefully are true based on science and evidence.
That's a goal.
Yeah. But in this book, what I picked up, I called Ryan about it. I was like, it's so crazy. I'm reading this thing. This guy's talking about how suddenly the author himself is talking about how suddenly he got a letter from someone being like, I can't believe you. I can't believe you've become so greedy. He's like, what? And she's like, I can't believe that you were involved in all this stuff for trying to get this money passed with Bill Gates for COVID and this and that. And he's like, what are you talking about? And she's like, I know exactly what you've done. So he contacts her, and she's like, and he's like, I just want to know what you're talking about. She's like, I know you did this. He's like, so he starts explaining something else. And she's like, see that? And like, and at a certain point in the book, he's talking about there's no way to make this woman believe because people are going to believe what they want to believe. And then this led you into one of the Ryan conversations back of like, he made it way smarter, obviously. And that's where we're going to go with this conversation. This was the topic today.
I just brought it into like nerdy behavior analysis talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. These people, so I haven't read Dan's book, but I will check it out. And I've heard him talk on a couple podcasts.
Have you heard his TED Talk?
No, I don't think so. Maybe. But
he has like some big ones.
I've always enjoyed what I've listened to. Like that's what I remember. And usually when I'm listening to those sort of things, I'm trying to figure out like how are these people like distilling and packaging their science to where other people listen to it, because
they're doing better than us.
Yes, and that's because that's been the interest for me, is like how are these guys packaging it, and the dude's crushing it, obviously, with the amount of people that are paying attention to the work that he's doing. So I think there's always valuable lessons for people to learn in there. And I'm always like comparing them to my past behavior analytic experience too. So there's like a storytelling side of him that I think is interesting. And anybody that's getting like good media traction, whether they're doing it for the right reasons or not, you can put aside for the moment. It's just like I'm interested in people that are getting a lot of traction with their stories. But then obviously I want to do that for like good science as well too. So I'm trying to figure out how do you do that on a science realm.
I think it's the BCBA credential that throws people off. Like no one cares about.
It's just, we're stuck in this problem where like people don't
Like just say behavior scientist.
Yeah, people don't know what we do, and what is increasingly happening is that what we get known for is the type of services that we deliver the most, which are good, needed services. But like for example, you'd ask anybody that loosely knows about the field, like what is ABA, and they'll be like, oh, ABA is like that therapy that you do, whereas like ABA is not a therapy; it's been an applied branch of an entire science, right? But like what happens is for better or worse, what people start to know you as and talk about you as in a culture is what you become to the majority of people when everybody's
And like
talking
ABA is
about
autism. That's like also.
Well, that's it. Yeah, I think we're kind of stuck in that. Maybe like you could potentially coordinate people getting like rebranding that if you wanted to, but it's going to be very difficult and it's probably not worth our effort. So at this point, like, yeah, I don't know. For different audiences, I'll call myself something else. So if it's like a behavior analytic audience, I'll talk about being a BCBA. But if it's somebody that's like in marketing, I'll talk more about like behavioral economics and decision making, or behavioral influence and stuff like that.
Change officer.
Yeah, marketing sort of terms.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Behavioral economics sort of things.
So true.
Yeah.
So one of the things in the book that he does talk about is, I mean, which is really interesting. And I'll say like, I want to say maybe the past, like, I'd say probably since COVID, like there's been a lot of weird, like a weird time. I asked my mom, like, was it always like this in the world? She's like, no, it wasn't this much craziness. And I think probably social media as well, things getting spread. But one of the things that he talks about in the book is the misbelief spiral. And I know like you did a little research on it as well. And you were telling me about it behaviorally. So if you could break that down a little bit.
Yeah, so my understanding is misbelief spiral is that like basically somebody gets presented some sort of information that at the moment they might not believe or not, but as they start to dig in and research and try to understand that perspective, they ultimately start to believe it, whether or not it is based in any sort of like hard truth or like based in any sort of reality. So your example that you gave of the person that reached out to him, that belief spiral, I believe he talks about it usually as like there's some sort of like traumatic thing that happens in somebody's life that gets them kind of like searching and looking around for different meanings. As they find new information, they start to like use that information to kind of fit a narrative that they tell themselves. And so this is where it's tricky. If you're telling yourself a narrative that matches reality, then like you're, I don't know, probably doing what a good scientist is doing, and you're kind of like
Supporting research.
Yeah, and you're like creating an accurate picture of the world with the
or you're almost like finding like repeatability. You're like, oh, like look, it's true here as well. Or
yeah,
like,
but if you're creating something that's a total narrative that's not based in reality whatsoever, you're then completely on the fiction storytelling side of things where you're just making stuff up. And while I haven't looked directly into his stuff, like what he's getting at there is like, it seems to be from a behavioral perspective, we just simply, people can fall into this trap. I'll call it a trap for just the sake of having like an easy term to throw at it. This trap of you start to tell yourself things that aren't based in reality, but it's a self-reinforcing loop to where you keep looking for things. And this is where you fall into like confirmation biases. You'll read something that's totally disconnected from the thing that you are currently investigating. But when you hear it, you confirm your own bias because like it was like what you were looking for. I think this Dan and other people in this space, like they're really looking at behavioral economics research and psychology research. And while we look at similar topics, we'll just talk about it different ways. But it seems to be that people are really falling into this like individual level of behavior where they're getting these reinforcing consequences. And then it turns out that since social media
works on algorithms as well, isn't it going to further that? Your thought on that?
Yeah, it can further those, but there's also like communities that I was going to get at there too. So that was a good point. But also like there's communities that you can find where other people think this way too. And so you can get these further reinforcement loops where you find like other people on these random forums or that you meet up on Discord or that you meet up with on Zoom or whatever it may be, where you just continue to, have these self-reinforcing loops where these
echo chambers of like just hearing the same thing.
You're just stuck in these reinforcement loops that lead to usually you like wasting a lot of time, or like some of those people end up engaging in like really destructive things in their lives too, right?
Yeah, they do. Which brings me to what I got you about on the phone yesterday. Our phone calls kind of are, because I expect Ryan to know everything going on. So I was like, I asked you about.
The questions you always ask are really cool because it's like you're trying to solve a problem through piecing the principles together. So.
Wait, how did I just totally forget? Hold on. What are they called again? They don't choose to be celibate. Incels.
Oh, incels.
Oh, this actually brings me to incels. I need to bring this up. I was like, do we do a full podcast on it? Because I've actually listened to a podcast, and I'm apparently late to the trend because the podcast I listened to yesterday about it was from 2021. Yeah. This has been like a thing?
It started way before that, actually, if I can.
Can we talk about what an incel is? Because the reason, and tell me if I'm totally wrong to like tie it to this, but I was just thinking like, they kind of have crazy beliefs.
Yeah, so I know of this a little bit. I think you should do a dedicated podcast episode on it and find someone that's really good at it because I just know a little bit. But
I get an incel on the show. And can we operationally define what an incel is? Best we can.
Yeah, so my understanding where it started was like in the early 90s internet culture that somebody, I believe it was first a woman, used the term incel to like there was a blog post or something like that, if I remember correctly. And really, it's used to describe what people call involuntary celibacy, and so the idea is that someone's not volunteering and they're celibate, and
so someone who's just not getting laid.
Yeah, someone's not getting laid.
In Snappa terms, just make it relatable.
Yeah, but like I think the real thing there. So the most I can talk about it, I guess, is. It seems to be that it got popularized kind of like in the early internet forums of like the 90s. People were talking about it more. And I have a couple family, friends, acquaintances that I think would either identify in that category, like actively and say that they are, or I think they could be labeled that pretty easily. So like I've never studied it, but I've seen it around me, if that makes sense.
But I thought these are people who... Like, aren't they like angry? Like, what is the?
What that's what I was
going to
behaviorally
define it. Like, Martha, anything on this? Yeah, let's do an episode on it. No, I'm saying like anything. Like I thought some of these people have gone and like killed people.
Yeah, so I think my understanding is that it's on a big old range or like a spectrum, right? Of like people that are like struggling to meet somebody, or somebody that's been struggling to meet people for a long period of time, maybe fall into these loops like that Dan guy's talking about, and like express it in very horrific ways, whether that's through acts of like terrorism or harming somebody or whatever it may be.
Do you think this is basic like deprivation of sex, like an unconditioned reinforcer?
I think that's part of it, but like
why can't we just solve it and then go to like the red light district and get laid?
Because I mean, like,
they want love.
Let's be honest. Like, if you go and do that, are like you gonna be fulfilled and happy at the end of the day? Like, maybe some people.
I mean, if that is the pure function, like a century, like.
Yeah, but like also, like good intimate relationships usually aren't for a sole reinforcer of like having sex, right? It's like I want to get to know this person, talk with the person, have a best friend, have somebody I can build a family with, like solve, like go through hurdles and struggles with, of like whatever that may be. So
it's actually really not that great as it sounds, going through these hurdles with people. Like, I don't know, go to the red light district.
What I was going to get at with like what I know about the incel.
You label. Feel like you know people who are this?
Yeah, 100%.
So what does it mean? Like, okay, because I thought it was like, oh, this person just like doesn't have a lot of game. Like they're not pulling.
Yeah, that's like the loose term, but like how it's almost like when you're talking about autism spectrum disorders, like you can have a label that like helps kind of categorize people into something, but it's really not doing that at all when you have people that are like so vastly different that are under that label.
It's behavior, bitches.
Hey guys, it's your favorite bitch, Liat here. Are you stressing about taking the BCBA or BCABA exam? Feeling like you don't know where to start? You got into this field, you're worried, your program didn't prepare you so much, you're wondering how you're gonna get through grad school, let alone take this test? Well, let me take that stress on for you. Over here at Study Notes ABA, this is what we do. We eat, breathe, sleep, thinking about the BCBA exam. I've been carrying around my Cooper book for the last 8 years so that you can chill. If you're getting ready to study and wondering what you could be doing, sign up for our live collective. It's 12 weeks, which is done over 24 classes. We meet twice a week. It's taught from actual BCBAs who have been there in your shoes, studying for the exam. We make everything relatable, funny. You are actually going to enjoy the study process. And hold me to that. If you're not enjoying it, let me know. I'll be shocked. You get a study group, people who are studying the exact same thing, shared adversity. We could ask all your questions, and we take all the notes with you. You are going to have the most beautiful doodles by the end, and your Cooper book will seem way less scary. Are you worried about payment plans? We've got that too. We get what it's like being an RBT in the field. So stop stressing, start getting ready to pass the test, and go to studynotesaba.com/collectives, and we have it all there laid out beautifully for you. Can't wait to see you.
So what I was saying is my experience with this is like some family, friends, colleagues and stuff have kind of, I think, fall into this category or experience. And I've looked at it as like through a behavioral lens is somebody finds themselves in a spot where like they say they want to go and meet somebody new. They go to a bar, they go to whatever the meetup is or whatever, and they take the scary step of initiating a conversation or whatnot and say they get shot down. That sort of thing is punishing to probably most people if we're going to like categorize this sort of stuff.
Right.
In that point, you can keep trying. You can kind of build up this adversity to like being denied.
You can shape your behavior a little. Like, this line didn't work. Maybe I could do it.
Yeah. But also like it is also another option to be like, I'm just going to avoid that. You know, like I don't want to experience that sort of thing, especially like the individual experience in which you get shut down could be really weird. Like, did you do it in front of your like close friend group and like you got shut down in a public situation where other people saw you, right? Was it on, was it, or on the other side, was it a more private thing to where nobody saw it? Even that can still be very punishing. So my understanding is what happens is you get in these negative reinforcement loops where like, rather than trying to do it, it's easier to escape or avoid those situations altogether, because that is going to be the optimal way in the short term to be able to make sure that you're not experiencing like punishing things, right, in aversive situations. Where in the long term, it might be beneficial for you to learn how to fail and like experience that punishment and adapt and evolve like new behaviors to be able to try to overcome that. Like in the short term, the punishment and negative reinforcement loop is like overriding that. So behavioral economics, like from our field, there's like this subset of behavioral economics is looking at like, you know, if you get the short, small reward versus the long, later reward and like those sort of dynamics.
Like delayed discounting?
Yeah, the way discounting sort of work. They try to like model those things out. And this is an area I've been spending a little bit of time trying to read. I'm going to go to some of the Tech Sava stuff on that just to like try to slowly understand that more. But like,
yeah, you go, you tell me about it.
I can. Some people, it seems to be that some people, and this is probably like your learning history, is like you're more susceptible to like that punishment leading to you avoiding things, whereas some people it may not. So like, I'm just making this up. I don't know if this would fit like research, but like it's an area that might make sense to me. Like if I'm used to like playing sports and losing and like getting better at a sport, that might make more me like a stronger person to go in a social category and try to meet some people, because like
generalize across, like you can handle it across.
Yeah, it's just like, hey, sometimes you
win,
sometimes you strike out. Yeah, right. Like that's where I think you get those metaphors of like, you know, sometimes you strike out, but like, you know, tomorrow night at the bar you got another at bat. Like you can try it out and go find somebody else. You know. But
it's kind of going back to this like the misbelief spiral, because it's like you're further reinforcing your beliefs on this, because then like these people seem to be like joining groups.
Yeah. So
the
what?
Echo chambers of like, yeah, fuck that.
Misery loves company, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All these things. Let's see what we could do in one episode.
But we all do. Like everybody enjoys these like social groups to various different extents. Like it might be sports. It might be, your gal pals that you're hanging out with. It might be like your homies at the basketball court or whatever sport you're playing. It could be your people that you're playing video games with online. Like we all kind of find those. So what I was getting at is like, I think the incel term carries a lot of negative baggage with it. And like, for me, it's really like a multifaceted problem of people having some skill sets, not other skill sets, just like we all have. And they're struggling to figure out how to like optimize their responses to where they can get the things that they want in life. And I think those are really good things that you should strive for, right? Like finding an intimate partner that you could be with. But there's like a lot of
BCBAs could help incels with these.
Maybe, but I think
we're just bad at marketing ourselves.
I think probably to some extent, but like for me, it seems to be like a multi-layered problem. Like I always think of like financial pressures in these situations. Like it's if you're constantly finding yourself having to like day to day figure out how to like pay your bills, get your own living arrangement, and like you're struggling with those sort of things, it's going to be harder for you to pay attention to like the intricate details of like why you maybe struck out with somebody when you're talking with them at the bar. You know, like I think there's like other social pressures, if that makes sense.
Like so many, even if you're like trying to go on dates and pay for them.
Yeah, that's a perfect example. I should have thought one. That's a perfect example. Yeah.
That's where you were going.
Yeah, like if somebody like imagine if you're making I mean, let's talk about like an average BCBA salary is probably sitting between like 65 and 90 a year based on their benefits package and things like this. And when you look at like
eggs.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you look at just inflation over the last few years, like people had been experiencing, but if you like you really zoom that back out, I was doing this math with a friend of mine the other day. If you were making $100,000 a year in 1970, and I know that's literally half a decade ago or half a century ago, but we were talking about like grandparents and what they were making at roughly our age and things like that. That $100,000 a year salary nowadays, it was worth $12,000 a year back then. So you imagine your earning potential being 5 times more. Like that's where we would be. So like if we were in, imagine a BCBA getting paid like $300,000 a year. That's like absurd and crazy to think about. I think for the average BCBA, you have to be like owning a clinic or like very high up in a large like P-backed firm or something like that to be doing those sort of things. Yeah, yeah. Like the point is like that earning potential sounds wild, but like what's been going on for decades is like these financial things that have been going on behind the scenes that we don't really pay attention to are putting pressure on parts of society that like we maybe can't label and talk about in the moment, but it's like I think ultimately a factor that's influencing people across the board, incels included, but like other everyday people too. Does that make sense?
No, it's totally true. I mean,
so like to really help out somebody in that incel category or other like really large problems, I think you have to like not only look at their individual behavior, but you have to have like a team that can help you, or you have to get really good at like understanding financial conditions, economic conditions,
psychological conditions.
Yeah, psychological sort of things. There's gonna be specific things like based on culture, race, ethnicity, geographical location where people live. Like that's gonna be a major factor too. Like
if it's cold, no one wants to go out.
Yeah, exactly. Or like, what do you do instead? So if it's cold, like, how do you meet people on the ski slopes? And like, what's that like as opposed to, if you got somebody that like does winter sports, like how do you figure that out versus like no one in Florida is probably trying to figure that part out. Right.
Right.
So my point is like different geographical locations probably need like custom solutions to
problems.
Yeah. It's behavior, bitches.
Hey guys, it's Liat. We did it again. We made the boring not boring. We've done it a couple times and now we're just getting really good at it. Have you checked out our SAFMEDS? What are the SAFMEDS? Well, if you know what it stands for, all my ABA nerds out there, say all fast minute every day. We've taken the standard SAFMEDS and made them actually funny. I mean, imagine playing Marry, Fuck, Kill or Would You Rather with SAFMEDS. We have 5 crazy game variations, all the data sheets you need to track your fluency, understanding the ABA terms. If you're looking for fun ways to study, this is it. I know a lot of you guys, like myself, had bad experiences with having to make SAFMEDS in college, but we have made over 560 snabified SAFMEDS for you. This took over 2 years in the making. They're perfectly thick. I'm very into how something feels. They're already made for you that you could grab it, have it ready to go. So head on over to studynotesaba.com and get your SAFMEDS now.
So to move on from the incel part, but like people that I think that are trying to understand this that have been interesting to me are actually way outside of the field of behavior analysis. So there's a guy you have to watch. Maybe we watch this tonight or tomorrow on this trip.
Yeah, right? Every time Ryan comes to town, I get like a hangout with Ryan night. It's amazing.
There's a guy on YouTube named Andrew Callaghan, and he had a show that got pretty big, but right before COVID, that was called All Gas, No Brakes. And he's done a couple different documentary pieces. I wrote them in there. What was after All Gas, No Brakes?
There was This Place Rules, Dear Kelly.
This Place Rules. So This Place Rules was him trying to understand like what's the psychology that led people to getting interested in QAnon, and then them also showing up and like the connection there to like the January 6th rallies that were going on. So I don't want to spoil it. That was on HBO. I believe it's still on HBO because they bought the rights.
They're on HBO? I thought
yeah.
Okay.
So, so that one, he's trying to like create this kind of mental model and understand how behavior is working. But then he also did the other one was called Dear Kelly. So Dear Kelly was looking at the same type of things that Dan Ariely is looking at, which they're trying to answer the question of like, how do people start to believe these things that are completely made up to the point that they'll like completely destroy and ruin their lives. So one of the things from the trailers in Dear Kelly was he ran into a guy that legit believes that Kobe Bryant's death was a result of the Clintons arranging for his assassination. And so like that's one of the things that you kind of hear in there. And those are the type of questions where he's just like, how do people connect these dots and whatnot? So Dear Kelly's available right now. I watched it recently. It's on its own dedicated website. But he's trying to look at how does somebody believe things to the point that they will do anything in the world to try to make something fit their narrative when it's completely disjointed. So there's some really cool people that are trying to investigate these, and he narrows his down to like people need connection. They need like a dependable
security.
Yeah, they need security.
And
I can remember the last one.
Significance.
So my point is like this Dan Ariely has his kind of model. Andrew Callaghan's this investigative reporter, quite young, like I think he's a Gen Z sort of guy that's trying to figure this stuff out too. I think behavior analysis is also just trying to figure this stuff out. Like I'm trying to figure out a storytelling model that works to help spread our science, and like you can see these connections at the end of the day across them. But I also encourage people to like go check stuff out. That Dear Kelly film is like brilliant. It's amazing.
So this also like just brings me to one of our like core principles of science, and we talk about this. Like I teach this is like I think night one of the collective, and I think an interesting part of it is also like that aspect of having philosophical doubt, which I think seems to be, which anyone who's studying for the exam, do you know what that is, Ryan?
The BCBA exam?
No, the philosophical doubt.
Yeah.
What is it?
I was just messing with you. Philosophical doubt. It's just basically like you're going to hold your conclusions kind of tentatively, and you're going to like you're going to kind of like reaffirm and reinvestigate that they're happening. So I always talk about it in the context of like reinforcement. If I think I have a reinforcer, I'm going to be like, let's try it. And like, you should have this kind of like serendipitous, like, oh, look at that. Like reinforcement still works when you like first apply it successfully with a client. You're just constantly confirming that, and you're not getting into that like dangerous zone. What did he talk about?
Circular reasoning?
No, Dan Ariely's like,
oh, the spiral.
Yeah, the spiral, right?
Yeah, the spiral. Exactly. Ryan, you know your stuff for the test. I have to say, like, you're not studying for the test like I am for the last 8 years, and you still know your shit.
I try to keep up with it.
No, it's amazing.
If you ask me to like run a formula,
but I was going to say, by the way, I would say for that one, I say hashtag healthy skepticism. It's just like a nice way to put it.
Like all the time. So
taking all this stuff, how do we synthesize this, and how, and what do you think people could take away from this?
I think
in terms of when we're forming beliefs and thoughts.
Yeah, I think there's kind of a few ways to think about this. So I think it's like good for a scientist, behavior analyst in this case, to like go out and try to like investigate other things that are going on. So like this Andrew Callaghan or Dan Ariely, and like other things that we talked about there. Like go see what they're talking about. And I learned this pretty early on, luckily, because I got so into behavior analysis. Steve Hayes, which is the founder of like ACT and RFT, he was like, don't write off other psychologies just because we maybe philosophically are from a different standpoint than them, or like empirically look at different data. They're asking really great questions. You just have to like interpret their results in that behavior analytic lens. So for part of the reason I look towards these other people and like am generally interested in that Dan Ariely's book is because I want to know like how he's going about it and like what data is he presenting, like how does it inform my worldview at the end of the day, but also like then I can compare and contrast, like because we have a different worldview at the end of the day. So
right, but it's, a lot of it also is what I've realized just by doing the podcast and like being like, oh, I think you're an interesting guest. I think you're interesting. I just think it's cool that you're a pimp. I think it's cool that you're a dominatrix. I think it's cool that you work in social psychology. It's like a lot of us are actually like, if you like take the time to communicate, talking about the same thing. We might be using a different word for it.
Yeah.
Right. But it's like, if you actually sit down with someone and listen, and you're like, oh my God, we talk about that exact same thing. That we call that pairing.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, we call that actually like response effort.
Yeah.
You know, when there's friction on a website,
Yeah.
like we're talking to a marketing person. It's like,
Yeah.
we're kind of talking the same, but it's about actually taking the time and listening.
Exactly. Yeah. And if anyone's really interested in like deep down nerdy, like a singular article or something that can help them kind of parse this out as a behavior analyst, there's an article in 1985-ish that was by Hayes, and Reese. And it's one we were loosely talking about before we hit record here, where I said there's different worldviews. And so they look at basically saying there's 4 different ways in which the people generally, and like science included, will categorize and decide what's true and what's believable. And so there's people that are very mechanistic, where they are like, let's investigate how the parts work. And it's almost like this metaphor of a machine. And if you figure out the parts of the machine, you can figure out how the world works. And then there's also formism, which is like, it has to look a certain way. If I arrange it just right and it looks right, then we're going to be good to go. So there's a lot of people that will try to like arrange curricula in a certain order. And like, if we arrange the curricula just right, then these students are going to learn.
Wow.
And then there's organicism, which is like if you have, which is really like this like developmental belief. So we, for example, like anybody that thinks like, oh, kids will do certain things at certain ages and like it's just going to be on this developmental trajectory, and until they get to that point, they're not going to really be ready. That's that worldview. And then the last one's contextualism, which is what behavior analysis relies on, which says we don't care necessarily how the world works. We just have a goal, and whatever helps us efficiently get to that goal, like teaching a skill or whatever it may be, that's what we're going to call as true. And so that article breaks that down, and I think it's really good for behavior analysts, because when I spent time getting there, to connect it back to what you're saying, is now when I'm like kind of a fly on the wall, or if I'm listening to somebody else's book or podcast or something like that, I can figure out what are their philosophical assumptions out of those 4 different ways, where are they operating from. If I disagree with them, then I can be like, well, it's because we have different worldviews, right? And now I can like understand their perspective better. I don't have to accept it necessarily, but like I can understand it if I want to. And it's easier to have, like, it's easier for you to listen to things like you were talking about, but also if you get into a spot where you're conversing with them, you can also like more effectively talk back and forth, because you know how to talk with them about their topic. Does that make sense?
I mean,
Yeah.
I think that is like a perfect closing to what you're saying, because I mean, earlier when you were like, yeah, like think about it, like as behavior analysts, we think of everything with determinism.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wait, not everyone thinks that. And you're like, no.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
well, like when you put it like that, it's like, of course this person's not thinking like that, but like that just becomes so much someone's truth, or like the way that you're not realizing that other people are thinking differently.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're like, as you're saying, if you're able to identify that, you're like, oh, it's not that you're wrong, but you're using it based on the way that you look at the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's where like that article is the one that we use in our field, and like philosophy of science people will use to kind of talk on. So like that's a useful one for me, and it works really well, but like there's other ones out there. So I think people that are really interested in this, I think what they're doing is they're trying to figure out quickly in the beginning of their conversation what terms you're using for what, and like how are you using them, so they can get on the same page. And that's always what I try to do first, either if I'm listening to, whether I'm listening to content or like actually talking with the creator or the science, the person that published the article or whatever it may be.
I love it.
Cool.
That is brilliant takeaway. Ryan, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
Always nice to be. I was a little nervous, I got to say, like having our video set up here with you coming on. I'm like, what's he going to say about this? You're like a video snob, but then you gave a compliment, so that was nice.
Yeah, 100%. You got a podcast studio. I don't have a podcast studio.
It's pretty cool.
I can't talk shit if I don't have a better setup, right?
That's right. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Ryan, where can everyone find you?
The main thing that I'm doing right now is promoting the behavioracademy.com. That's where I just host like my films and things like this. By the time this is out, I should have the film that I've been working on for a couple of years that I mentioned called the Morningside Model out. Like I just got to get that finished in the next couple of weeks. And then I've got a bunch of old stuff on the Daily BA, like the video series that we did that you mentioned. There's a few hundred videos on there. I'm just not active there anymore. I'm like active on the Behavior Academy domain, but I've got a lot of old school stuff that people still enjoy on the Daily BA.
I love it. All right, guys. Now it comes to where you can find us. You can find us on behaviorbitches.com. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, please go subscribe to our YouTube. I'm telling you, it takes so much more effort with the video editing stuff. So make it worth our time by going and hitting subscribe on YouTube. Go leave us a 5-star review anywhere so that I keep doing this. I really need the reinforcement to keep going. I know I sound desperate, but who cares? That's all we have for you today. And as always, love ya.
Mean it.
It's behavior, bitches.